Hi, I'm Laura Flaquette of Soltar Solutions, and I'm here today on Focus Forward with an amazing guest. I have Regina Barr with me today, and Regina is award-winning business owner, and she's also the CEO and founder of Red Ladder and Women at the Top Network. Regina, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Lori.
It's always a pleasure. I always learn so much from you. Today we're going to launch right in and we're going to talk about peer coaching. I want to know all about this because I think the concept for me is a little bit new. What is peer coaching?
So peer coaching is basically a group of men or women that meet together with a facilitator who helps to make sure that the group moves along, that the group is meeting their goals, that they're accomplishing what they want to accomplish as a group. So it's oftentimes for me, it can be one of two things. Sometimes for people who are not sure they're ready for one-on-one coaching, or sometimes for people who just really need to get exposed to other ideas from other like-minded people or people at a similar level but in different companies. You know, sometimes people are working in a company, they can't go to their boss. They certainly can't go to their staff, right, because that would be inappropriate very often. And sometimes they don't feel comfortable going to their peers. So by having a group like this, they can really work in a safe environment and just get exposed to so many new ideas and ways of doing things.
So how do you set these, the peer coaching up? Like how would you go about doing it? Would you just invite a lot of different people from companies, or how do you go about putting the group together?
So what I do is I also host, for example, for one of my peer coaching groups, it's focused specifically on executive women, and sometimes I work with small business owners, sometimes I work with other kinds of groups. But this particular one is focused on executive women. So what I do is twice a year, I host what's called an Executive Women Networking Social, where I invite women who are typically, for me, director level and above, who also have P&L responsibility. Usually I'm looking for 250 million or above, or they might also own a business and be of a certain size revenue in a business and then have direct reports. So I have some screening criteria in place. I have a group come together for networking social, and I have the opportunity to interact with them, and then the members of that group also come, so they have the opportunity to interact. And then once I have an existing group, I always, before we invite someone to come and attend a guest day, we clear it with the group, and then the group determines who gets admitted. If it's a new group, I'm really working to try to vet out who would be the best fit. Typically, they are typically not in the same industry, but they could be, right? Depending on what we're trying to accomplish with that particular group. So it's an art, not a science, I guess. And so far to date, I've been pretty lucky with the groups I put together.
So that sounds really interesting, but the groups, I just want to reiterate, are not from the same company.
Correct. These are not, and actually, you could certainly do some of that within a group in a company. I don't recommend it. I think one of the benefits of peer coaching and being in a facilitated group like that is you're getting exposure to people outside of your group. Your company, I should say, even your work group, but your company, get exposure to other industries, you know, where an idea that maybe you wouldn't normally apply to your industry, you might hear and be like, oh, you know, that's something interesting, I want to explore that. The other thing, it's safe environment. You really need to be in a place where you can say things that are troubling you or that you're concerned about, you know. You just need to be in a safe environment, and I think it would be very difficult to have very honest, open conversations if you were with other people in your own company.
I believe that that's absolutely true. What kind of tools, when the group comes together, what kind of tools do you offer to kind of get everybody on the same page?
Well, a couple things that I do is, first of all, once somebody agrees to be part of the group, I meet with them one-on-one, and we go through a sort of an intake. I have key questions I want to ask. What's really important to me is that I'm clear on what their issues and concerns are and what goals they want to accomplish. Because then as the facilitator, I'm always helping to move that goal forward for them and making connections and connecting the dots. So that's one of the things. Then typically, at least once a year, we do goal setting. So we go around and we talk about what have we accomplished, what key learnings have there been, and what do we want to focus on in the coming year. Also, we try to do a retreat. where we even get out of meeting in a conference room or a boardroom, where we can go and again be in a relaxed environment, because a lot of the times that stimulates different relationship building, different conversations, different ideas. And then something else that we do is very often we will look for some volunteer events. So like, for example, we've gone out as a group and done a Ronald McDonald House where we come together and cook and sometimes bring members of the family. Or we've gone and done something with Simon Says Give, where we went and helped pack backpacks for low-income kids. And the reason that we do it, it's one way for us to give back, but also then to build a relationship with each other in a different way. And so we do all those different kinds of things to help promote the relationship piece, because for me, that's one of the most critical pieces. You are building a network, a sounding board, sort of like your own kitchen cabinet or board of directors, if you will, that you can use well beyond the peer coaching group.
I could see these relationships being formed and people starting businesses together, or, moving to the same company, one person gets a job, they bring the other person in. So I could see this being extremely beneficial. But let's get down to kind of the nuts and bolts. What do you think are the most important assets to using peer coaching?
Well, I think a couple of things is that you have to be clear on what you want to accomplish. And one thing that I will tell you that peer group coaching is not, it's not a networking referral group. So as the facilitator, I have to be very careful to screen out those kinds of things, because very often with the level of people that I'm working with, people want to have access to them. So I have to be very careful about that in terms of vetting that out before we invite people to even come visit the group, because that would be disastrous. These typically people in a peer coaching group environment, they do not need to be sold. They have people knocking on their doors all day, every day, trying to sell them things. So that's one thing. I think for me, each group is different. And I think that's really important, because it's not one size fits all. So if you have a good facilitator, they're going to be reading the group and the needs of the group. So for example, I have one group that wanted to be very structured and have a very linear way of going through the meeting. And then I had another group that wanted it to be a little more organic, where we didn't have a set person sitting in the hot seat bringing their issue like we did in the other group. So what we would do is we would go around and I would facilitate a certain process for doing updates, and then we would hone in on sort of like what was bubbling up for the group, and we'd focus on that. And then I have other groups that they want to have speakers come in. So we talk about what are the topics of issues. And of course, I'm always listening, so I'm always kind of mentally notating and keeping that for the group. And then I work to bring some of those folks in to help facilitate the learning and dialogue for the group. So it really depends on the character and the chemistry of the group as to what kinds of tools I use to help that group be successful. And I think that's really critical, and I think that's an important thing that somebody look at when they're looking at a peer coaching group.
I think it's great that you're not mandating, that you're really asking a lot of questions and you're forming the group so everybody feels comfortable and also so their needs are met, which is extremely important.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So Regina, we're going to wrap this up, but I'd just like to find out, can you give me like 3 tips that people would be able to use to maybe find out if this is right for them?
Well, the first thing is I'm always a big fan of researching a group. So find out everything you can about a group, talk to some of the members of the group, find out what their experience is, what do they like about it, and if there's any pitfalls, because there may be some things they don't like about a group, or maybe they participated in another group and it didn't work out. The second thing is, you have to really be committed to a peer coaching group, because for it to work, people have to be present. They have to participate. And if you're too busy to make it work once a month, twice a month, whatever the time frame of commitment is, then it's probably not a good idea for you. And then finally, what I would say is, sort of take the leap. I find that sometimes people aren't too sure about coaching still in this day and age. And I would say get past that piece that might be holding you back and just take the leap and try it out, make the commitment. And then I think most people will be surprised at how much they really do get out of a peer coaching group.
Absolutely. No doubt in my mind. Thanks so much for being here. It's great.
Thank you, Lori. Always a pleasure.
I'm Lori Flaquet of Soltar Solutions, here with Focus Forward with Regina Barr. Love this peer coaching concept. I think it's amazing. I hope you've enjoyed the show. I would love it if you would subscribe, also comment, like, let us know what you're thinking. Thanks so much and have a great day.